Hey guys, just a heads up, we are going to include a trigger warning here because we do discuss sexual harassment and maternal mortality in this week's news segment.
Hi guys, it's Foye here, but you can call me Foye.
Hey, this is Lola, but you can call me Lola if you want.
Hi, this is Velisa, and you can call me Vels if you want. And this is the Everybody Hates HR pod, episode 3.
Woo!
Yeah,
I was gonna woo, but I'm a bit tired. I can't lie. So yeah,
long day at work.
Really good reception. Still loving it. Loving all the engagement.
Thank you.
So, what's everyone been doing this week?
I feel like, you know, when you finish the weekend, you know you did stuff on the weekend, but you can't remember. I'm having that a lot these days. Like, I did stuff. I had a really chilled weekend, and then today was just crazy at work. Pretty much. I'm tired.
That's it. I'm just tired. My weekend's been good. It's been busy. My friend's getting married. Her trad's on Wednesday, so the weekend was pretty much spent like going to the tailor, getting nails done, all of that kind of stuff, just prep. But exciting, but busy.
When's the wedding?
The week after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So next week.
Exciting.
I know. I'm happy for her.
I'm a
She watches this
bridesmaid in 3 weeks.
Ooh.
Chief bridesmaid in 3 weeks.
That's a lot of work.
I'm not gonna lie. The chief bridesmaid just sounds
That's a lot of
like
work.
labor. Obviously, when you love someone, it's cool, but
Free
like
labor.
free labor.
It is, but you know, my turn is coming, so I'll do what I need to do for my friend because she has to do it back. But yeah, I've been watching The Ultimatum on Netflix. I've also watched The Real Housewives of Lagos.
I watched that too.
I've never watched any of the Real Housewives.
Really, we can't be
No.
friends.
I
No,
don't
but do you
even
know what
know.
it is? Yeah, it's not even that. Like the same. It's for the same reason I'm not watching The Ultimatum, because I know that I'll be into it.
So
I-
watch it.
Yeah,
No, because I have a very addictive personality, and I can only watch one show at a time because I would just sit and watch the whole thing. And like I started watching Too Hot to Handle like before, and I thought I wouldn't be into it, but I was.
do you know what? The way I am, if something's like 8 to 10 episodes, to me that's really light work. Like I can, that's like
I
a
could do that in
weekend's
a
work.
weekend,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
I've done
nothing.
that with Bridgerton.
Oh, you see, yeah,
Done it in a
it's
weekend.
easy to do that. Like I watched Snowfall like 3 seasons in like maybe a week. So
I watched I watched House. Do you ever watch? It's like
I know House, but I haven't watched it.
yeah, like I literally watch. There's bare seasons, and now I've started watching Criminal Minds from the beginning.
Oh, come on, you can't do that.
It will never finish.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'll just
That's
watch
like
it.
watching Grey's Anatomy.
Oh yeah, again that's
Yeah.
my kind of vibe. And then occasionally, like I watched I just like stuff where it's like anything that's criminal, a little bit of what's that stuff, like hospital stuff. I watched
Okay.
that. Obviously, I watched Tinder Swindler, and I watched Inventing Anna. That kind of stuff. I like stuff like that, and true crime, and
Yeah, we know you love your
everything
true
true crime.
Have you watched Worst Roommate?
No,
Oh, watch Worst Roommate. You'll like it. It's true crime.
someone die.
In some of them.
Yeah, not all of them.
Oh, is this the one where I think I might have seen it? Is it like a series of like 6 of them?
Every episode is a different story.
There was one
Yeah.
I saw. I don't know if it was that one or Roommates from Hell or whatever, but this guy was just like a serial squatter.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
that.
he's
It's
on
that
that.
season,
Yeah, that's one of the episodes.
That was so bad. He basically just spent like 15 years moving into people's houses and never leaving.
No, it was so
and then
bad
claiming the
though.
space as his own.
If
He
you
would
know your
literally say
laws.
like, "Don't move my stuff." Like after it's not his stuff and he moved it already, he'll take cushions, rearrange the furniture,
Yeah.
and not move it back.
Yeah, there was a woman who he moved in with. She had 6 chairs and a table. One day she came home and there was the table and 1 chair.
Yeah.
And then she was just like, she knocked on the door. She was like, "Have you got the chairs?" He was just like, "There's only 2 of us here. You only need 2 chairs." And so he gave one back.
No, literally,
the
that's
4
what
in
he's
his room.
on.
It's so scary. So scary.
She ended up moving out of the house though. Like
Yeah,
she doesn't own
yeah,
that house
yeah.
anymore, which is
Yeah.
so sad.
Horrible.
He ended up killing his brother.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, spoiler
he
spoiler
did.
alert, but
That was a big spoiler alert.
yeah.
Sorry if you haven't watched it,
Yeah,
but it's been out for a minute now though.
it has.
Yeah, but at the anyway, that's the kind of stuff that I like to watch. I even watched Piers Morgan Killer Women, and I didn't want to watch it because it's Piers Morgan, but Killer Women. So
I watched the only British person on death row. That was good.
in America.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been murder, right?
Yeah. Murdered pregnant woman.
Just one person.
Oh, it was that woman, isn't it? Female.
Yeah. She's not really British though. She's from a British colony, but clickbait. So yeah, that was good.
I watched this one show,
So
right?
cheeky.
I watched this one show about British women who were marrying like young Black American guys on death row.
Why?
What's it called? Something lockdown.
No,
Life after lockdown.
No, love after lockdown.
Love
No,
after
that's different. Those are people that have been in prison and come out. But like this one is women who are marrying. They're British women, so they're like Sallys and whatnot. Like they're in relationships with guys on death row.
No, but why?
And the women are like late 30s, early 40s, and the guys are like early 20s.
But as in, they were single and went out to find these guys, or they were in relationships?
No,
with
they were
these men
single and then
before?
they've started relationships with men who are on death row. And obviously the men
Maybe
probably
it's
wouldn't.
better than the ones on Hinge.
Probably less fresh.
That's so funny. Is it because they're actually just gonna die?
Well, obviously
at one point?
and obviously they're very open to really dating anybody.
And they can go visit them. They can get like time alone.
Yeah,
when they're
and but you
married.
just
Yeah.
it's really sad because they can see them through the glass, and just before they actually die, you get to have like physical time with them. So they do stuff.
Wow.
But anyway, it was
We digress.
So I guess what's been in the news? Yeah. Is it the Daily Mail?
oh come on, we can't
Daily
get
Mail always has
clickbait.
yeah, and they're always judging stuff up, and it's very dramatic. But hey ho, I still read it
We
sometimes.
might have to bleep that out. I don't want them to get any airtime. This thing. There was a couple of things that we discussed. Like I can't really remember them too tough, but which ones do you want to talk about?
Yeah, there was this one story of this guy that worked in Sainsbury's who actually won a tribunal case for unfair dismissal, and basically he harassed a lot of his colleagues and also groped a woman. But by harassment, I'm telling you, he went extreme. So he was calling them. Can I say it?
Yeah.
Okay, so he called one of them a bitch. He called one of them a whore. He called one of a Pakistani woman Osama bin Laden's mistress. He was just moving very, very mad, like really mad. But long and short of it, he got away with it because he claimed disability, because he had an accident a few years before that had put him in a coma, where he had like a head injury or concussion or something like that. And yeah, he said that was the reason for his inappropriate behavior, and he won.
I mean, was it evidenced?
Well, this is the thing. So there was evidence in the sense that he was at Sainsbury's for I think 20 years in total. During that time, at one point, he did have psychiatric analysis and assessment that did say, some of his previous injuries does affect his behavior. However, the HR department at Sainsbury's failed to take that into consideration when dismissing him. So rather than dismissing him for, capability issues or, you can no longer do your job due to the injury that you've got, which is the right thing to do, they actually dismissed him on gross misconduct, which was the wrong thing to do. So
he got away with being sexist and racist because of that.
He physically touched women. Like what happened? One woman was like stuck in the shelves, and he just went up and like grabbed her bum and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like
he groped her,
and then he won.
Do you know how pissed you would be if someone who had literally like sexually harassed or assaulted or whatever they're going to get money? We don't even know how much money yet because it just happened, and we're waiting to find out like how much they're going to award him. But you can get quite a lot of money for disability discrimination.
Yeah, it's a protected characteristic.
Yeah.
So
what do you think about the whole thing? Because obviously Sainsbury's need to make sure that it's a safe place for the other people that work there. So like obviously that's probably that I'm assuming gross misconduct, like that's why they dismissed him, because he's making it unsafe for the women that he works with, like verbally, physically, like all of this stuff. Like there was sexism, there was racism, there was
He hit all of them, all of the isms. He hit he hit all of them. But yeah, it's wild.
I don't know how much money he gets.
Me too.
Same. I think this is like, without knowing all the ins and outs, this is like an example of good HR people and not so good HR people, because you really have to think when you look at a case, like you have to dissect it. Like they basically, it sounds like they panicked and were like, oh my gosh, like this is just so wrong. We need to like get him out. But they didn't really think about things before they escalated.
The basis in which.
Exactly. And I think maybe good and not so good HR people might be harsh in that situation because they were morally trying to do the right thing. But I think that's where like the strategic element comes into HR, and it's not so much people. Yeah. It's okay, this is what we need to get to. How can we get there without like just mitigating that risk, which Sainsbury's didn't do, basically.
Yeah, I think like it reminds me of this story or this case where there was this guy who had basically got out of his girlfriend. He worked at a hotel. He was a chef. He got really drunk and started like arguing with his girlfriend. A stranger stepped in, and then he basically assaulted the stranger, and then he ended up getting arrested, and he went to prison for GBH, and then his employer dismissed him because obviously he's in prison, you've committed a crime, gross misconduct, blah blah blah. And then when he came out, he was like, well, you didn't go through a fair process, and he sued them and he won.
But that's it though.
It's all about the process.
As an employee, no matter what you've done, you have the same right to be put through a fair process. So, and if you haven't gone through that process, you can.
They said they didn't attempt to write to him or whatever in that circumstance. So it's kind of similar in the sense that, yes, there was a basis to dismiss him, but they just didn't go about it the right way. Yeah.
I'm so risk adverse. So whenever I'm taking on a case, grievance, disciplinary, whatever, the way that I always deal with it is my mind already goes to tribunal. It's just, if this was in tribunal, what would the judge want to see? And that's how I deal with every single case. So in the case of the Sainsbury's issue with that guy, my immediate thing is, if this gets to tribunal, what's this going to look like? So I would already be looking at what are the mitigating circumstances, what does his whole HR file look like, does he have any health issues, disabilities?
Always have to ask,
like check his file, like all of these things.
I wonder what they said in the disciplinary, because in the disciplinary hearing you would always say, like, is there anything else that you want to put forward?
Exactly.
Is there a way? And you know, surely he would have said at that point, he would have been aware, because he's had the assessment that, and it must be outside of work as well, just inside. He must have had an awareness, like, I either didn't ask, he didn't say, or they did ask and he did say, and they ignored it.
They just ignored it. Well, they knew he had the, even though they weren't the ones that referred him, but they did know that he had the assessment that basically said his injuries affect his performance at work and affect like some of the behaviour.
It's really wild, because it's like, this is a good example of things that are not clear cut, because he did obviously harass these women, but he is also, I assume, very unwell.
Yeah.
So it's like, he shouldn't have been in that environment. They should have taken him out that environment when he started causing a problem, which they obviously didn't do. So now, obviously, assuming what he's saying is true, and in some cases he doesn't have control. Like, for instance, you see that kind of stuff with people that have Tourette's, like where they might say, like, you know, really bad things that they know they're not supposed to say, and they can't control it.
Yeah.
When I was at uni, there was a guy in some of our lectures that had Tourette's, and he used to yell the N-word when black people would, you know what I mean? Like, because he knew he wasn't supposed to say it. What can you do?
If I speak,
I know. It's like, what can you actually do?
He used to yell lots of things, like, but all the things that you're not supposed to say.
Yeah.
So, like, let's say someone had come in a wheelchair. Obviously, there wasn't, but it would be the, like, that's his tick, isn't it? So, but he used to yell the N-word. Wow. But you can see that, and you could hear it, like him trying to not do it, but it's still,
I just don't, you know, and it's just like, I'm just glad I haven't been in that situation, because professionally, I think I would still keep it very, very professional, but internally, I would be a bit like, this is a bit mad. Like,
it's very emotive. Like, I've dealt with like sexual harassment cases before, and really and truly, like, you have to be objective, but also you're human. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're all human and we have like our normal human feelings. So when someone is like in front of you, I've dealt with stalking cases, and that I did a stalking case which was really bad. Like, it was so bad. And when it was a male employee that was stalking one of the women, and when she came out, she like disclosed to me, and then somebody had said something might be going on with her. So when I spoke to her initially, she was like, no, everything's good. And then I think it was like a day later, she was like, do you know what? I just going to tell you, because I said to her, you can tell me, like, I promise if it is anything, I will deal with it like sensitively. She came to me like a day later and was just like, yeah, so I didn't tell you and this is what's happening. She sent me WhatsApps, emails. Like, he was basically like just talking to her on WhatsApp, sending her stuff, saying he wanted to be with her. He was in a relationship, he had a child. He was basically saying like horrible things to her, calling her names when she wouldn't reciprocate. Then when she said that she was going to tell, he started saying, oh, you'll ruin my kids, like you're going to take food out of my kid's mouth if I lose my job. Like, it was all this stuff, and she was so young that she didn't really know what to do. And so she'd been dealing with it for 2 years. And then she'd been dealing with it for 2 years, and it was just crazy. So you can't go through that. Like, you have to be objective in that situation. But obviously I'm not a robot. Like, I'm looking at this woman who's gone through this really traumatic thing, like such that he even threatened to come to work and hurt people, hurt himself. There was so much to it. So you have to be like, you have to be objective, but in every situation, like, you can compartmentalize, but you will always have your personal opinion. There's no point in pretending like you don't. And that's when HR people pretend like they don't have a personal opinion and they act like we're infallible. That's what people don't like.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if we make mistakes, we say we make mistakes. We all have our own biases. We just have to try and be probably hyper aware of them, so it doesn't affect like what we're doing in our work. Yeah. Sorry,
I was just going to say, do you know when I really learnt that? When I had a case that was to do with sexual harassment, and an employee, a woman, complained about an older man like saying and doing certain things, and then basically found out it was the reverse. Yeah, like it was her. Like, witnesses came forward and said no. Like when I dug more and more and more and spoke to more people, it basically came out that she was a bit nuts and she was making his life a living hell. Like, it was literally the complete flip. But when I was talking to her and she was telling me what was going on, I was probably like, oh no.
Who raised the complaint?
Blah, blah. She did.
No, that's it.
Yeah, she did. So then, and then even up to the point where it got to the disciplinary, where we have like everything now, we formed our questions based on the investigation. She still acted like it wasn't her till the very, very end. And that's when I really learned, you know what, like, I have to stay objective because people lie.
And they will lead you, like, your biases will lead you down the wrong path. Like, you mentioned that midwife thing that was also in the news, and that annoyed me for a number of reasons. But do you want to like explain what happened? And then,
so a senior nurse,
a midwife.
A senior midwife was basically calling the junior midwives coming in fat, and like they were wells on beds, and
the women that were giving birth.
Yeah, and the women that were giving birth. Like, she was just horrible, like just name calling based on weight, and she lost her job. God, my mind has gone blank. I feel like I'm tired too.
No, she lost her job. They fired her because she was bullying people when she kept calling patients names.
But her claim was unfair dismissal.
Yeah, she said it was unfair.
Yeah, she said it was unfair dismissal, but I mean, it wasn't.
She said the bit that killed me is she was like, yeah, she did call people fat, but only the ones that were clinically obese.
Only those ones.
I said she didn't call them whales,
bloaters.
And she said,
imagine calling a pregnant person a whale. Like,
there was something she did. She made a joke and she said it was in poor taste. I can't remember what it was. It was a really, really, really bad joke about like death or self-harm or something crazy like that.
Smothering someone with a pillow.
Yeah, she said that someone should be smothered with a pillow. And then the thing that really annoyed me was that she made a comment that the black women were really difficult when they're in labour and when they're in pain. And I'm
I
like,
didn't like that comment.
number one, everybody is difficult when they're in pain. Like, it's not comfortable. Number two, it's literally your job to deal with women who are, you know,
All women.
Yeah,
and
not
it
just colour.
just made me feel like we've had all this stuff in the news, like in the recent years, about black maternal mortality rates and stuff, and this is the reason why, because people think and say stupid things like this, even if they don't say it, they think it. And you think like these women are difficult, you're not going to attend to them in the same way. So if they are in pain, or if they do have like a problem, you're not gonna find it, because you're not dealing with it, because you already have your own bias.
Yeah, that was my biggest fear when I was pregnant, was like, oh my, because all of that 5 more stuff, which is amazing, and it's good to bring awareness to it, but it made me so scared, like being pregnant and seeing all that stuff. Like, I had to come off social media because I just kept thinking, what if I get one of those nurses? I had a Nigerian midwife, so when I saw her, I was like, oh. But yeah, it's really scary. So then to see like people like that,
And the fact that she came to say it's unfair dismissal, she literally did not have one leg to stand on. But it just shows you, boy,
illness.
Closed mouths don't get fed. She just thought, I can go for it. I don't understand what basis. This is when you have really enjoyed privilege in your life. You feel like, let me just try.
But this is why I want to know what she looks like. Like, was she projecting?
You never know.
Yeah,
though.
like,
You
well,
never
I want to
know.
know. I want to know, because who are you to be calling everybody wells and bloaters? Like,
Honestly, and just fat in general. It's like,
They're
why are
literally
you doing
pregnant
that?
women, like they're supposed to be big. Like they have literally carrying a second human in their belly.
Exactly.
Like, it's just, that was just ridiculous. And that really annoyed me, because number one, she had the audacity to do all that stuff. Number two, I feel like she's part of the bigger problem. Number three, it was just like, waste people's time, man.
and honestly, and like, she was a senior, like, midwife. She wasn't, and she was essentially bullying the ones that were
she made them
supposed to be
cry.
learning. Yeah, she made them cry.
I think some of them said, that they didn't want to be midwives anymore.
Yeah.
And that's like a classic story. They say that people join organizations, but they leave managers.
Yeah, isn't it like 80% of people leave their job because of their manager?
If you get a bad manager, you cannot stay.
Yeah.
You can't, because you'll just like, you'll go mad. Like, you spend too much time at work in general, and also too much time engaging with your manager to like, no.
I lasted 5 weeks in one. It's the only like horrible role I've ever had in my life, but you know about it because I even called, like, Lola was helping me. But yeah, 5 weeks at a role, and I left because of the manager, and it was just,
No, but she was genuinely insane.
bullying and harassment. And you know what's so mad, actually, from a HR professional's perspective, I literally shrunk into just being an employee. Like, HR just went out of my head. Like, I'm literally like, Lola, can you help me write this? Like, I've got so much anxiety, like crying. It was so weird, because if it was anyone else that'd come to me, I'd be like, you need to write this letter. Like, they can't do that to you. But when it's actually happening to you, it's completely different. Like, completely different. But more of the story, if you've got a really bad manager, leave. Like, it's not good for your mental
complain
health.
and then leave.
Yeah, it's not
But
good
always
for your mental
complain,
health.
because what else happens is, if you speak to a lot of people, they're like, I can't be bothered, like, it's just too much stress. And I get it, like, always protect your mentals first, but like, complain, because you might complain and you might think nothing's going to happen, but they'll manage other people after you. And so if you complain, the next person complains, eventually, hopefully a good organization is going to be like, I mean, you keep getting complaints about this person, and they'll do something about it. But if you don't complain, number
Just
one,
keeps happening.
it'll just keep happening. And also, at least if you've complained, you know that you've done what you could do.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't mean like complain and then stay there and see if anything's going to change, because a lot of the time it might not change.
Yeah. A school I worked at, I was there for about, I think, maybe 5-6 weeks. Didn't like my manager, didn't like the head teacher, didn't like the school.
You know, like nothing about this place.
I actually hated it. And I met up with one of the school governors, who was like a director of people in the NHS, but she was a black woman, school governor. So I thought, okay, before I leave, I'm going to write her an email about everything that I've seen everything that I've experienced.
Not a
and how
whistleblower.
a proper whistle blow. I wrote it all down, and I told them, I thought, you know what, even if nothing happens, they're getting their common now, but even if nothing happens, I've done what I needed to do. Like, we met in London Bridge Station, like outside of the school, so she could see my face after I've written the email.
I don't know why I'm imagining you in, like, you know, the Mac jackets and a hat, putting the evidence out.
Incognito. Literally, and I just left it there. But yeah, it's a bad school.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really had, no, that's not true. I can say I haven't had a bad manager. When I first left uni, I joined the NHS graduate program, which is a good graduate program. Like, I don't have anything negative to say about it, but I was put into a trust which was restructuring, and so they didn't really have capacity to teach me because everybody was at risk of losing their jobs because two trusts were merging. So half the people, like, everybody had a counterpart, so it was either you or the other person that's going to go, right? And that was when I was in finance, and the director of finance, she was literally like a dragon. She was just you know, someone who's not even trying to endear themselves to you. She used to tell everyone, so we used to work 9 to 5, as in like 5 o'clock chairs are spinning, but you had to be in at 9 and you couldn't leave before 5, and you could never work from home. And she used to work from home 2 days a week. Nice. And when she was working from home, she would call and she would say stuff like, "Oh, I hear people laughing. Does that mean you guys have finished your work?"
What miserable cow.
Number one, is this school?
No, literally. And then they would talk about her, like, all of the people would talk about her. And then when she would, obviously when she wasn't in the office, it was so like people would chat, and when she was in the office, it was like dead silent. And like, she would call and check up on people, and she was just a terrible. And I was like, what happened to you in your life? Like, she would, but you know, sometimes they say, like, and I don't support and I don't believe in it, but you know, they say like a lot of women, like, not now but back then, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they felt like maybe they had to do that to be taken seriously.
I've heard that before, and I hate when I hear it.
But do you not feel, okay, the higher up you go in terms of your roles at the moment, do you feel like when you interact with women that you get embraced like you feel you would have or should have, or do you find that it is a bit?
I've been really, like, I've had good experiences working with women. Besides that, I mean, it started off with bad with her, but then since then I've had quite decent experiences working with women. In the last role that I had before I started working self-employed, I worked with, like, we had a lot of women in leadership, and it was so edifying, it was so like empowering, because they would actually support you. And I put out a post one time, and there's this picture, it's called Women Supporting Women. I can't remember who the artist is, but one of the ladies that I worked with, she bought it on one of our team calls. She was like, "Oh, this reminds me of us." And I posted it on LinkedIn, and I was like, it does remind me of us. Like, when I used to have hard weeks, and then we would all jump on a call at like a Friday at 4 o'clock, and they would be drinking, and I don't drink, but like, I'll be eating something, and it was just really nice and supportive. But I've also worked with some women who weren't as supportive. You know, some people see it as like their, not duty, but some people actively want to go out of the way. It's like black people. Sometimes some people see black people and they think, "Oh yeah, you're there." Some people see black people and they're like, "Okay, I appreciate you, I understand you, and I want to support you more." But it's not everyone that's going to do that.
Yeah, I feel like I've had majority positive experiences being embraced by other women. One thing I did see though when I was at a recruitment company was the director of HR. She was really nice, but she was the only woman on the senior leadership team.
Always HR.
Yeah. She was the only woman, but it meant that sometimes she didn't make the right decisions because she didn't want to upset the men and that really frustrated me, because it meant that loads of employees got away with stuff that they shouldn't have, but it was just so she didn't rock the boat for the other like men on the leadership.
Do you think that if you're the only woman in a position like that you need to be even more like championing women's things?
It's hard, but
it's hard, but you have to be that spokesperson, but you also need to be a certain type of person to be that spokesperson, because you do have the odds against you. But yeah, I've been in majority of my environments have been positive experiences, but I've also been around women who say they're for women, but they're not. And it's a bit of like a playground bitchy type, but in a professional manner, and it's really uncomfortable. It's just as bad as having a bad manager, that I feel anyway. But majority's been positive.
I've actually spent most of my working career working with like old white men. Those are the people that I've spent most of the time working with, and I have a lot of I've built really good relationships with a lot of them. So like now it's really weird because like I will go to like lunch or something with them, and like it's just weird because I just have all these friends, I guess, or ex-colleagues who are like 50-year-old old white men.
Yeah. No, I'm the same, but not just white men, not black men actually, like more like Asian, like I don't know any black people in leadership positions that like personally actually, not that I can think of. I'm really just thinking about it right now. Not that I can think of actually.
I do.
Only women though, really. And
only women.
The men, I'm trying to think of men. So when I worked at Deloitte, I led the multicultural network. It's like the BAME network or whatever. Didn't have a black network at the time. They do now. Since Black Lives Matter.
One day we'll talk about BAME. Continue.
Yeah, we have to.
They
were actually really reluctant to set up a black network, but they did it with Black Lives Matter. So I don't know why that was the thing. But anyway, I was part of a network of like employee resource groups or network leaders, and it was called the Network of Networks. So there was like all of the leaders of like diversity networks, specifically looking at, I guess, black or ethnic minorities from like across the city, and that was really good, and that was a good forum for me to like meet a lot of leaders in the space. And I met some really, really, really like phenomenal women and men, but it was a lot of like predominantly women, and so you would get like access to like their events. So like I would go to a lot of the Black History Month events, and then I would actually get to see them and sometimes meet them. But outside of that, like I've come across women, but I rarely come across black men in leadership roles.
I don't think I ever have.
Yeah.
I've seen them, but I don't know
them on LinkedIn.
them
on LinkedIn.
personally. Yeah. It must be hard though, like, because look at us saying we don't know them. So if you're one of them, do you feel like you have to represent like the whole world?
Come on the pod.
I guess so. Like honestly, I would love to interview or speak with someone in that position, because I would feel the pressure to have to play that role even if I didn't want to, just because there's not that many people and all eyes are pretty much on you.
And I think that might be part of it, you know, because as soon as you step into that role, you then maybe have to think about your image a little bit more. Whereas if you're in the background, you can just be yourself. And we've all like been in a situation where we've had to code switch. I mean, lots of us I still do it to an extent now, but much less. And I feel like it's more on my terms. When I say code switching, I mean like, you know, changing like the way you speak or the way you are or your like mannerisms to be like more palatable for the audience. So now if I do it, I feel like I do it because I want to do it in my own benefit in a specific situation. Whereas before I felt like I had to do it to be successful in what I wanted to do, which is really sad, really, really, really sad. But if you stay in the background, you don't have to think about what people. That's what they were saying about, who was that? Was it Poet? It was saying about Marcus Rashford.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily agree with everything he said, but I agree with like it's true. When you're a footballer, no one really cares what you do too tough. Look at Ryan Giggs that was sleeping with his brother's missus and then encouraged her to get an abortion, and he's still one of the greatest. No one cares what he did off the pitch.
Yes and no. I just think football fans are crazy though. Like, I do think if you're not playing well and you do stuff like, that's why Marcus Rashford is annoying, because he's not playing well and then you're doing like PR motion, apologizing like,
you can't
if you're doing well, no one's gonna care whether you apologize
that's
or
true.
not.
But the thing is, like the way I say I agree with parts of it is because they're like now he's doing MBE and people are more invested, and now he has to apologize for taking a picture with Wiley. But obviously feeding the kids, it's not a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't necessarily.
I'm telling you, football fans will say them kids, and
No,
they will. They say go and play properly. Forget the kids, go and play properly. My team is losing.
I literally saw tweets that were literally like that. So
I feel like my
you're
team
not
is
lying.
losing. Let's forget the kids for a sec.
No, it's true. But like, yeah, so I think that's what it's like. I mean, he's actually a good example. Like now you could just be on, look at the other footballers that he's friends with. They take their private jet on their holiday at the end of season, go do what I can only imagine is a madness. And then they come back and they kick ball again.
But even they got in trouble for that. Rashford was on that jet with Sancho, listening to like some hip hop and with their chains going Miami.
I saw the chains.
Yeah, and they got.
I'm sorry,
they didn't like it.
but they're rich.
And they're
Like,
young.
they are young and rich.
Like,
they have
let them
literally
live their
all the money
lives.
that they could ever dream of.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't they have chains? Listen, people don't want to see me. If I get a rich, if I get a rich like that, everyone will know. Unless I win the lottery, then it has to be low key. But if I'm in a position of like power or authority or a public and I have money, listen, I've always said that God knew what he was doing when he made me. Like, you have to embed the humility. You know, like I have
From early, before you get to
I had
stage.
to, like, even like my weight. I'm one of the people, my weight fluctuates. So I had lost 3 stone at a point, and then I'll go up and I'll go down, but like never back to the largest. But I know, like, if I had the kind of body that some of these people have, I'll be an Insta model.
Be acting up.
I'll be an influencer, and I won't even be one that makes good content, because you know a lot of influencers, they have like, the ones that actually create content, like, and it's a lot of work. I wouldn't be one of those. I'll be strictly
Body
Instagram,
fashion,
strictly photos, strictly look at my necklace, that kind. Fashion Nova, that would be me. But he knew it's not, because I'm not above it. I just don't have the tools.
I don't know how to act, basically.
I won't know how to act. In fact, I will know how to act. That's what I'm saying. When people are in positions of authority, everyone's looking at them. So sometimes I feel like that's why people don't want to come forward and be. Representation matters, but also you might just want to be free.
It's true.
Live your life.
It's true.
I don't think I would want to be in that position now. Like, I feel like I'd want to be very established. I'd want to also live my life without people judging me, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want all eyes on me and me having to be this token person and you're watching my every move and criticizing everything. I don't want that.
And that's the other thing. Is tokenization a word?
Tokenism?
There we go. Tokenism.
Grammar queen.
I feel like,
I was like, wait, hold on.
She was looking at you like,
listen,
not.
Tokenization, I'm sticking with it.
And I'm like, yeah, we can make it. When she's like,
the tokenism is the thing. So again, when you're in that position, you can become the token, and they'll will you out for everything. They stick you on the website. They'll put you on every panel.
Diversity.
Yeah, you will literally be the walking diversity.
If I speak, I can't.
You know, in that, so the role that I was in, that I was only there for 5 weeks, there was a guy, a black man, who had just resigned before I joined. So he was working his notice, and I had his exit interview with him. And it was just kind of like, black person to black person moment. And it's just like, we're just not talking about the role anymore. And it's just me and you. And I was just like, oh, how are things? I think this is like maybe my first few days there. And he was just like, I get treated differently from everyone else. And the only difference between me and them is the colour of my skin. And he was like, the fact that you're even talking to me now, they've sent you as the token black woman. And I was just like, what have I walked into on day 3? Like, someone is calling me the token black woman for speaking to the black man.
It's very violent.
And I was just like, what? When you're so confused.
But in hindsight?
Oh, in hindsight, he was completely right. Oh, 100%. Like, I get it now. I know exactly what he meant.
He said, get out. That's what he said to you.
Get out.
He lived with his eyes.
Yeah, he said, leave now.
And it's so easy
did.
to be the token black person in HR because there's not a lot of
There
us.
aren't, yeah.
So like it's what 66% white women. So
I didn't even know that.
yeah. So
and then
then
there's a lot of white men in there as well.
yeah. So wherever you go, how often are you gonna bump into another black person in the same sort of role as you, or more senior?
Have you ever had another black person on your team?
Yes, quite recently, but yes, and I loved it.
I recruited too, so
Oh,
into my team,
haven't.
and that was joy. I loved it. Like,
But I've had different cultures, and that was fun. Like, it was just nice that there was diversity in terms of not just me being the only black person amongst white people, but yeah, that was nice. Actually.
sometimes I see it like as a bit of a privilege, not a privilege in terms of like, you know, the privilege that you own. Like I feel like lucky, or I feel happy to be in that space, because when people bring things to you, and you know, if I wasn't here, nobody would get you.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like knowing that, like, yeah, there might be some tokenism or whatever going on, but I am here. So if something happens, you can come to me. And also if something happens, I can be the voice of balance. If anyone's ever going to dismiss something, you're not going to dismiss it when I'm around. We're gonna unpack it, and we're gonna know like what the situation is and what's happened. We're not just gonna dismiss it because I'm here, and I want to make sure we do it properly. So that's why I feel like lucky, or I feel like it's a position of privilege to be in, where I can be like someone who gets to advocate for people. I don't want to advocate for everybody, because some people are just wrong. But
when it's needed, as in when you do have to step in, you're just happy that you're able to step in that position.
And people will just deal with things differently, because you know what we said about, you know, the midwife. Like, if you're racist, you're racist. Like, you can be in the CEO. If you're a racist person, you're a racist person. You would just have to hide it better. But you just being in the you just being in the room sometimes means that they will treat that thing differently, because they're like looking at you like
100%.
Most places, again, do you know what? One day I really wish I can actually name and shame them, but I know I cannot. But everywhere that I've been, apart from that place, there've always been like white people in my team. And when issues arrive that are race related, I have to say that they have dealt with it really well, and they've been very, like, what's the word? I don't know. They've just handled it really well, and I don't think, to be honest, it's because I'm there. I do genuinely think I've just been fortunate enough to work with people who aren't racist, and are like objective.
I've had a range. I work somewhere, which is probably the closest experience that I had to that one. I was there for a bit longer than that, but on my third day, one of the directors introduced me to another director, and he used the N-word in a conversation. So
I don't know how to react in those.
And do you know what? Yeah, I hated myself so much, because I was just like, okay, like the position I was in, and the position in my career that I was in, I have a lot of these moments, and I look back at my career and I feel like I wish I had said something. I really wish I had, but I just have to give myself grace, because I wasn't in a place in my career or in my confidence that I could have done that. But like, it was just so unnecessary. It's always unnecessary. But he was basically talking about, I told him I was Nigerian. He told me that he went to Nigeria, and then he ate all this pounded jam, and then someone told him that he had N-word-itis, and he was like, but that's what they said, I'm just repeating it. So you know it's a problem.
Yeah.
And then the other director just looked as if to say, like, he was trying to gauge from me about if I was going to make it a big deal. And I can see that he was like, oh, please. I can see him. I could basically hear him thinking, please let it go. Please don't make a big deal out of this. Please don't make a big deal. And I didn't.
Yeah. It's not your fault.
Yeah, of course.
It's not my fault, but you know, you feel there's like 2 or 3 moments like that in my career where I really like regret not saying anything.
I feel like in those moments in my career, I should have said your mother, but I didn't. I do
always choosing violence.
No, but you have to.
Because I think, do you know what? I was junior in my career, so what if I lost my job? I was at home. I wasn't paying rent.
She's not lying.
Do you know what I mean? I should have just said your mother.
And the thing is now, but the thing is, times were different because we're talking about like sometimes some of the stuff I'm talking about because I've been working now for like 10, 11 years. So like some of this stuff was like 10 years ago, and even though it's mad saying something was 10 years ago and I was working. Listen, I'm still a baby girl, but I was working straight. But like it was like the times are different now. Like number one, people just have more fear, especially since all the Black Lives Matter stuff. Like people just have more fear. Like and I think it's a good thing. Like I think obviously you don't want people to be worried about saying things that are not offensive, which you also get. But you should have fear. You should be afraid to offend me if what you're saying is offensive. If you're asking me, oh, you've told me my hair looks nice, I'm not going to be offended. Do you know what I mean? If you put your hand in it to touch it, you might have a problem. And if you say like, you know, if you ask me regular questions about my food or my culture or stuff like that's fine. If you're asking me questions which are sprinkled with all sorts of nonsense, then I'm going to be offended, and I want you to be afraid of offending me. I do. True. Because then you won't do it.
It's true.
When people never had the fear, we saw what they were doing.
It's true.
Too much.
That's what I'm saying.
And on that note,
I'm
time for the HR spotlight. No, it's time for a dilemma.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have one here that is a little bit long, so I'm gonna try and distill it.
Hit us.
Okay, she said, hi, blah, 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 thanks. I use my Twitter as an outlet, and my managers have told me off about it because I was tweeting about their racism indirectly. Apparently, I was being derogatory, which I was not. It made me wonder if I can really get in trouble because of the things that I tweet. I retweeted an article about Muslims being trolled on social media, and I wrote that I know how it felt. My manager has been through my whole Twitter, even since before he joined, and has printed hundreds of tweets and used them to prove that I was not a culture fit and that I discriminated against white men.
I'm guessing he's a white man.
Yeah.
How do you determine what is reasonable to tweet and what could be offensive to other people? And can I get in trouble for this?
I don't know where to start. Like, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah,
like,
there is.
So let's start with, can you get in trouble for what you tweet or put on social media?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
What kind of things will get you in trouble?
A lot of things,
Yeah, anything, companies love to say anything that puts the business in, I can never say this word.
Disrepute.
That's going to land you in trouble, and that's literally a caveat that they'll use.
So broad.
Yeah, and a lot of things can go underneath that. So you just need to be careful. Like me personally, I would tweet as if my employer is watching me. That's how I would do it. And I know, you know, that might be restrictive of freedom or what you want to say, but at the end of the day, if someone is putting money in your account every month, you have to, the fact is you are under their control to some extent.
Policy is also important. Like lots of companies have social media policies. So read the social media policy. And just because they say something like you've broken a rule, check the policy and make sure that you have. Like they can't stop your freedom of speech or freedom of expression, I guess.
That's why a lot of people put, you know, my views and opinions are not that of X
that
company.
won't protect you, you know.
It won't protect
Does it
you,
not?
but at least,
No,
you know,
it's a little bit.
It's out there that...
But if you say your views are not, and then you go and do what that guy from Savills did and start attacking the football players and doing monkeys and whatnot.
No,
the fact that the views are not your own.
Racist.
Yeah, but the fact that the views are his own. it's even worse.
Yeah, it's true.
It's not gonna. It does help if you're for the more mild things that can happen.
And for people who have like their own brands outside of their companies, like their employment, if you've got a side hustle, whatever it is, that stuff kind of helps.
Do you advise that people? Well, I guess we all have brands or whatever outside of our 9 to 5s. I mean, Lola's got a whole company now, but but would you advise telling your employer, or have you told your employers that whenever you've joined a company, do you tell them or do you just not?
Yeah, where I work know about Black in HR. They love it, but the type of company I work for, they were gonna love it. Like it wasn't gonna be a thing. But like I've seen like mixed like reactions to Black in HR from not just where I work, but from other like companies and stuff, or like from people who have reached out to me for jobs and like really questioning what Black in HR is and why I do it, because they don't necessarily understand it. But I don't care.
I guess some employers might even be a bit scared.
Yeah, definitely.
To like engage in.
Yeah. What about the second part in terms of obviously what she's done is she's using her social media as an outlet, which a lot of us do. We tweet what's going on in our lives or we post stuff, and she feels that can she get in trouble for saying she feels that the people she works with are racist?
She can't, but rather than tell Twitter or social media, raise a grievance. Tell internally the people that you're saying this about. Tell your employer, this is how I feel.
And you know what? That's actually a better thing to do, because once you have raised it, if you basically say that you feel like you've been discriminated against or there's some sort of ism against you, they cannot use that to like you can't get in trouble for that because it's victimization. So if they treat you worse because you've made a complaint, that is definitely legally discrimination. It comes under victimization. So it's definitely worth doing it, because actually that could stop some of the stuff. But this is like the typical thing, right? Like I always say, people are always more concerned about being called racist than the racism.
It's so bad. Sorry, like I really felt it. It's like you're not even mad for the right reasons. Like you're just doing it because you want to protect yourself or you don't want to be seen, but you don't actually care about it's the suffering.
It's very middle class to be like offended by racism. So they'll be like, oh God, racism, no, terrible. But those blacks. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like really, people take a lot of offense to the thing. At work one time, I did something which I never usually do. Do you know when Dave he performed, was it the Brits, and he performed Black? Yeah, so somebody at work had said, was talking about Dave, like, oh yeah, I like Dave, but he's too political recently.
It was so annoying.
Yeah, they said Dave is too political recently. They liked it before, like, you're an artist, like you shouldn't try and be political. Don't you dare use your platform to raise, like, honestly, you know, on the world stage. But they said, yeah, it's too political. And I was just like, I quite like Dave. They was like, I mean, it is definitely like, it's a bit much now. Like, he called Boris Johnson racist. And how dare he? It just fell out of my mouth. I said, Boris Johnson is racist. and everyone was like, whoa. Like, everyone was silent. Then like 4 of them chimed in, whoa, you can't, oh, come on, like, that's very strong. Like, come on, like, it's a very strong thing to say. Boris Johnson compared Muslim women to letterboxes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I remember that. He
talked about pickaninnies with watermelon smiles. Like, he, for sure, has said a lot of racist things. Yeah. And they was like, how could you call? I said, this is what he said. And then I started to feel myself getting into a debate about it. So I had to retreat. But I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, the fact that you people think that it's crazy to say that someone who is saying like these crazy things is racist or has said some racist things, is you're so offended on Boris Johnson's behalf. But you're offended that Dave is talking about being black. It's like, what if somebody who was white went on a site talking about what it's like to be white? I said they should.
But he can. Like, you absolutely can do that if you want.
You go and say, you know, you go and you talk about how you love your privilege. Like, it's fine. It's fine. But you know, those kind of, what if a white person? I said the context is not the same.
That's always the rebuttal.
Yeah. But you only talk about black girl magic. Like, what if we had white girl magic? I'm like, yeah, you go ahead. Go off.
I actually think that exists somewhere.
Yeah, mate. But I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't feel oppressed by it, because I'm very happy within myself, and everyone should be happy within themselves, you know. But people are so offended at the idea of being called racist. But she should definitely raise it internally.
I think so.
Yeah, there's no point in coming on Twitter to talk about it, and then, you know, people are still, even from your home, people are victimizing you.
Yeah, exactly.
But for the fact that she's already tweeted about it and they've seen like her experience, I feel like a company with a good culture, they might not like what she's done, but they will say, do you know, we're really concerned about the
who
things
knows?
that you no, but I'm saying now they've seen
now
it.
that
Like
they've
they
seen
should
it,
talk
No,
to
but who? Because it's her manager. It's the person that she has accused of it that is doing it. So even if it had a good company culture, he's not going to show anybody.
But who's the one that went to collect like
Her manager.
over
Her
100?
manager went to go and print off all her
So
tweets
what
to
did
come
she
and
do with
to
it?
come and share
only
with
her
her.
manager knows what she's
I mean,
tweeted.
that's what it seems like, right? Or like people, but it doesn't seem like there's any sort of official thing, like it's gone to HR. So her manager is basically saying, you shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah,
Even
then
if the
she just needs, like
she needs to
Foye
tell
said,
someone, yeah.
she just
So,
needs to
yeah.
go to HR then.
And I would also use the fact that my manager is stalking
Yeah,
my
don't go.
social
Like,
media
what are you
page and
doing?
That's so
Why are you
weird.
printing stuff? That's so passive aggressive.
It's so
Exactly.
weird. That's so weird.
I would
But I've
definitely-
definitely seen stuff on Twitter where people have like their parents, their employers have printed off their tweets, and some of them were wild. Like there was one, these people, people regularly tweet about how they hate their jobs and how they hate their colleagues, and like, like they were calling their colleagues stuff like, they were calling them derogatory things. And you, for sure, if you do that, you're done out here.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
most tech companies do background checks. I'm sure. A lot of like the financial sector, they do background checks, and they are now including social media in those
And
checks.
I to be honest, I'm so fine with it.
Yeah,
And even if like you're not using your government, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a nosy person, yeah. So if somebody tweets something like, I just got X amount salary increase, I'll try and find your LinkedIn.
I will always find you.
I will always
find you.
Literally, you just have to
That
have
is
one
so
variation of your name, yeah. I will find you. Like,
Wow.
some people even tweet like their welcome package to their new job.
Look at that, the logo, Google image.
Oh, you think you censored the logo? I can still find it.
Oh my
No,
God.
I will find anybody on LinkedIn.
Listen, people need to be
and I've
careful.
got a recruiter account, so I can even like do it, and you will never know that.
Yeah.
I was on your profile.
Incognito.
People need to be careful. Just because you think your Twitter is separate from your LinkedIn or your Instagram or whatever it is, people can still find you.
Do you want to do spotlight?
Yes, we'll try and be as quick as possible. The spotlight this week is on the role HR business partner. So, HR business partner in like general is essentially a senior role within the HR department. The main function of a HR business partner is really to partner with the business and the leadership team and align HR strategy with the business's strategy. So essentially, whatever the long-term, short-term goals of the whatever the business are, HR business partner will then sort of start to put plans in place to make sure that the HR department is aligning with those goals. So that comes.
What kind of stuff do they do?
Yeah, so that comes in forms like sometimes it can be the bad stuff like restructures. If the business is saying we need to downsize or this department is no longer relevant for where we're trying to go, that unfortunately could mean things like restructures. It could also mean things like retaining talent, so succession planning, investing in talent a lot more, so training. A lot of it as well includes training leadership. So actually partnering and networking with the exec or the leadership team and making sure that they are the best that they can be in terms of like a top-down approach.
Usually they're like the face-off to a part of the business. So let's say you might get a HR business partner who was partnering with, I don't know, the sales part of the business, and their role is to make sure that sales basically gets everything they need from HR, which is going to enable them to be successful. So rather than the sales team speaking to somebody in ER, speaking to someone in talent development, speaking to someone in L&D, speaking to someone in engagement or whatever, they will speak to one person, and then that HR business partner will sort of work with the other areas of the business and the sales team to make sure that everything's aligned and they have what they want.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that does depend on the size of the company and the structure of the company, because you can do departments. In my previous role, it was broken down into countries. So I would look after a certain amount of countries, and I would partner with them on understanding what their needs were, basically. What would you say some of the skills needed are to be in a business partnering position?
I think top skill is to be strategic, but I also think influencing is a massive skill. Being a HR BP, if you can't influence, you can't be a HR BP.
Just get out. Get out.
You can't do it, because essentially you're dealing with, most of the time you're dealing with leaders and you're dealing with managers who manage people, and they're all looking at the commercial side of things, like how are we making money, how are we getting this big bonus this year, blah blah blah. And then essentially as a HR BP, you have to help them see the benefits of HR and looking after their people. And I think if you can't influence them to understand why that's important, why they need to take certain steps and go through certain processes, you are gonna you're done.
I was actually going to say being commercial, just so that you can actually understand.
You can help talk their language.
Yeah, exactly. So if they're going to be like, I want to do this, I want to hit this number, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And in order for you to come up with good solutions, or to even know which person to go to, who you need to engage in the process, you need to first understand like what the business is doing.
I remember when I was working at a recruitment company and I was looking after the London recruiters, and I used to go and sit with them. I did not like doing it at all, but I wanted to understand them. I wanted to understand what their day-to-day was like, how they interacted, what was important. Like I'd come to their meeting in the morning about what they discussed, their KPIs are for the day, blah blah blah. And I really didn't like doing that, but that's because I have a thing about recruiters. But
I'm a recruiter partially now.
That's why I'm looking at you. But I think it's important to influence. I also think being a HR BP, it's important to be able to adapt really quickly.
Very flexible.
Yeah, because you just don't know, one, what you're going to be thrown into, whether that's a redundancy, whether it's a mad, employee relations case, a restructure. It could be anything. But then also, you're just dealing with different types of people. You have different priorities, different objectives. Like you literally have to be able to switch based on who you're talking to, and not code switch, but just have a quick summary of bullet points in your head of who you're about to talk to and how you're going to navigate and get that person on side with whatever it is that you want or what HR need from the business.
I would also say you need to be very confident, because you're dealing with people who, one, know what they want, know what they're doing, and are not afraid to question you. You need to be resilient. If someone tells you no, you need to keep going. And you really need to have that resilience. One thing that I learned very quickly when I was in one of my old roles was how to speak to people. I actually used to be quite shy or a bit intimidated, and it's like I know what I'm doing, but if someone shuts me down, I would be like, okay. Whereas you have to get over that. But one thing that I done in terms of the influencing was my old manager was also like the CFO, and I basically stuck to him like glue, and he had been in the company since he was like graduate.
Wow.
And so he knew everybody, he knew all the partners, and every time I would go in to have a meeting with one of them, I'd be like, give me the lowdown, like their personality, how they act, all of this kind of stuff. And I literally had to adapt to pretty much 16 partners, different personalities, every time I would speak to them. And remember, they've all got different investments. Some of them care only about the money because that's what they've invested in. It's fair enough. Some of them care about the people, some of them care about the employees, some only care about their client, and you have to adapt to that. So when I'm talking to them, I'm using what they care about as leverage when I'm speaking to them. a lot of it is facts and figures as well. The when you're dealing with the leadership team. So if I'm talking about a tribunal case or this disciplinary, the first thing I'll go to is this is how much it could cost us if
You have to go for the, you have to scaremonger
so
first.
do you want to behave or not?
Shall I continue?
Exactly. And 9 times out of 10 it actually
Yeah,
works.
it does.
It really works. And also once they get that first case where they have to pay out money, they listen to you after that. It's like, so what, this person isn't acting right. What should we do? And it's like, okay, now you want to listen. But it's good. I really enjoy the business partnering side of things. I really like being strategic. It's fun. Like no 2 days are the same. It's a lot of networking. It's a lot of talking with people. And one thing that I like that it's part of not the role, but I get to learn so much from these people because their day to day outside of this role is amazing. Like usually when people are in that position, they wear so many hats, and I love tapping into that because I'm like, give me some gems. Like,
I hear you.
yeah. But yeah, I think that might be a wrap.
Yeah, I think
Sorry, I stole your word.
Oh yes,
You did.
Go on.
sorry.
No, we still have to do the.
No, because I'm not going to say it and then get in trouble for saying it because we need to follow us. On.
No, that's what I'm saying. You just pause. You just pause. Follow us on. I was going to say it's at Everybody Hates HR Pod on Instagram, and that's the only one I know. Everything else will be linked below wherever you're watching this. I am going to plug myself actually. So as I said, I run my own business. One of the things that I do is HR search. So if you're looking for a new HR role, get at me. Just find me on Instagram. I'll be linked in there. I'm currently working on a couple of people advisor roles, some people or HR assistant roles, and a HR manager. So get at me.
That's a wrap, guys.
Thanks. Bye.